In this video, I'm going to be going over editing vocals in Maschine with clips. I've done a video already on comping. This one is going to be specific to vocals. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you should record the vocals, and then we're going to go try doing some comping of the vocals and then show you what you would do to finalize the vocals. So with clips, you can go into song view and lay down vocals for an entire arrangement, an entire song. So what I've done here is I've got 5 different vocal takes for this one project, and the vocals run all the way through the arrangement. And then I put all of those different vocal takes on a different sound on one group. So that's my vocal group right here. So if we look here, there's my clip running through the project, and then down below you can see what's in the clip. This song is a collaboration between myself and this incredible singer, Olivia Francis Okolo. I'm going to put a link to her YouTube channel so you can go check her out. She's just starting out. So she sent me a whole bunch of vocals and a song idea, and then I took that and built an arrangement to support her vocals. So this will give you a little sneak peek into the song. We're only going to look at the first verse for now. And in future videos, I will show you the entire song once it's finished, because it isn't finished right now. It's unmixed and all of that. But all I wanted to do here was show you how to edit vocals. So let's have a little sneak peek at the song.
Slowing down, taking time to figure myself out, not knowing how, when the sun would come up, so I shout from the mountaintop. I'm doing the best I can with what's been handed to me, not like I have the choice or a say. I could write a song that will possibly save me, but time it takes to get up and start over again, because it's looking impossible lately.
We'll stop it right there, but gives you an idea of the song and where it's going, what direction it's going. I'm super excited about it. So what you're hearing is one vocal take there. She has 5 vocal takes that we're going to go through, listen to each chunk one take at a time, and choose the best version of each chunk, and then move on to the next chunk. And that's called comping or compiling. And the thing you need to remember when you're going to be doing any work like this is you need to have takes that are consistent. So what that means is you need to get your singer in the studio or wherever they're singing, and you need them to sing exactly the same every single time. Because if you have one take that is, maybe a little further away from the microphone, the timbre of her voice is going to sound different than the other takes, even if the volume is matched. So make sure they're always singing the exact same spot with the same microphone. And once you've done that, you have to get your vocal tracks at a consistent level with each other. And you might be tempted to go normalize your audio, but I wouldn't recommend that. If you look at her vocal takes, she's got some takes where she went quite loud, and then other takes where she didn't get as loud. So if you normalize this one, this little chunk of audio will stop right here, but this one will get normalized to whatever the loudest peak is in this track. And so the overall level of each track would be quite different. What you would have to do is go to your mixer. So I'm just going to go to the mixer right here on Maschine, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to push down on the 4D encoder so I can see my different takes. And if you have one take that's a little bit softer than the others, then what you would do here is maybe boost that take up a little bit so that as you listen between them, the level of that one matches the overall level of the other takes. And you'll see once we bounce this audio down later on, it will take into consideration these gain changes that you made sort of globally for each take. So once you've got your audio takes at a consistent level, make sure they are all audio modules. So press the plug-in button, hit the sound button, click your first pad, and make sure it's an audio module. If it's a sampler, just click on it and change it to an audio module right there. Once you've done that for all of your different takes, then what you want to do is make sure that each one is set to gate and not to loop. What we're going to do is we're going to use the loop function, and I'm going to turn that loop function on, and you can see where the current loop is right now. And I can go down here and I can resize that. I can move it over. I can also adjust it from the controller. So if I press Shift and restart or loop, then what I can do is I can move this little loop chunk around. I've got basically 2 bars set, just over 2 bars in my loop right now, which is kind of perfect. When you're moving this around, if it's moving by huge amounts, just make sure you press Shift and then press Grid, and you'll see how you are moving around this grid. So let's change this to a bar and try moving it now. And now you can see it's only allowing me to move by bars. I don't want that. I want to be able to move this loop chunk around with quite a lot of precision. So I go to Arrange, and I'm going to set it to an 1/8 note and then get out of there. All right, now that we've got that, I can move this loop around very specifically to nice spots in my arrangement. Let's go to Events. What we're going to do is we're going to start listening to these different takes. I'm going to click on lead 1. So let's listen to our first chunk. And when the loop is on, you can press restart, and it's going to always start from the beginning of that spot, which is super important. I wish Maschine also had a way where if you press play and then stop, I wish there was a way to get back to where you just started from, as opposed to, you know, pressing Shift and moving the 4D encoder to sort of jog around. It would be really nice if we had that feature. So like even if you press Shift play or something like that, maybe a feature request. And anyways, start, and I'm going to hold down, because I'm in gate mode, I'm going to hold down lead number 1 right here on pad number 1, and let's have a listen.
Slowing down.
And that's all I'm going to choose right now. I'm just going to listen to slowing down. And in fact, I'm going to zoom in on the monitor just by clicking on this zoom bar at the bottom and dragging up. So we're going to listen to each version of slowing down. Here we go.
Slowing down. Slowing down. Slowing down. Slowing down. Slowing down. Slowing down.
Once I've listened to them all, I got to keep track of which take I like the best. And I think I liked take 2 the best. Let's listen to that one again.
Slowing down.
I like number 2 the best on that one, but before we even get there, I'm just going to make a couple of suggestions. One is to turn off sounds in your mix that might start distracting you from listening to the vocals really well. So I'm going to turn off this Pigments track that's got that kind of pitch bendy thing happening. I love that sound, but it's not necessary right now. I'm also going to turn off, I've got some piano solo type things here. I'm just going to turn those off. And then the other thing I should mention, I put a compressor on these vocals, and that's going to help smooth out the level as well. So let's go look at what I did for that, just so you can do the same thing, because I highly recommend it. And I also recommend putting the compressor on the group, not on the sounds, so that you have the same, so that each sound is going through the same compressor. I'm using the lovely VC2A compressor, which is an imitation of the LA2A, famous compressor, world famous compressor that's been used for decades, and it sounds really great. And there's the VC2A, comes with a whole bunch of versions of Complete, made by Native Instruments. And all I did here was load up the vocals preset, and then just set this at a point where this needle started to dig right in when she gets to some of the louder spots. So let's go to a louder spot right here.
About not knowing how, when the sun would come up, so I'll shout from the mountaintop.
So you can see the needle is digging in quite extensively on some of the louder parts, but it's barely doing anything on the soft parts when she's singing, which means the louder parts are getting squished down, and then we use the gain knob right there to raise everything up. So if you want more compression, just crank up the peak reduction, and then the gain is used to bring the level of everything up. And that is also important, in my opinion, when you're comping, because she's going to have compression on her voice later on anyways. So if you put the compression on now, you're going to hear some of those things in the lower level things that she's saying that you may either like or not like. Last thing I should mention is that I've got some reverb on this group. So if I click the channel button, you can see that I've got under page 2, I've got some of this track going to an auxiliary send, and that is super useful. Also, I've got a video on that. Make sure you check that out. I'm going to turn the loop back on, just shift loop to turn it on and off. Now let's listen to take 2 of that again.
Slowing down.
I love it. Let's record that. I put it in record mode. I restart. So now I've got this little chunk of that take, and that's perfect. I can move on to the next one. All I have to do is press Shift, Loop, and move my cycle over by a little bit and press Restart. Make sure you take it out of record mode when you go into the next chunk. Okay, here we go.
Taking time to figure myself out. Taking time to figure myself out. Taking time to figure myself out. Taking time to figure myself out.
What do you do? I forgot to mention how hard this is when you're editing somebody who is amazing. Like, every single take is incredible. I don't know what to do. This is not pitch corrected, you guys. I'm telling you that you could set the loop to just go right around that spot perfectly and then just press play.
Taking time to figure myself out. Taking time to figure myself out. Taking time to figure myself out.
Okay, I like the first half of take 2 and the last half of take 3. What do? Well, we use both. Here we go.
Taking time to figure myself out.
All right, so we got it. Now all we have to do is refine this, and I could do this over in the software just by mousing over. What we need to do here is just make sure this crossover happens in a pleasing way. Let's have a listen. Let's maybe solo the track here at this point.
Taking time to figure myself out.
Sounds pretty good. I think we're going to get away with that. Ideally, what we would want to be able to do is a little crossfade right here. What we could do is we could go to the sound itself, and we could see that there is a little thing right here that says fade. Let's try cranking this up to maybe 30 milliseconds, and this one up to 30 milliseconds, and let's see what happens. Let's see if this works better.
Taking time to figure myself out.
And that actually did it. What is happening here is it's doing a 30 millisecond fade on every chunk of audio that at the beginning and at the end. We could even probably fake a little bit of a crossfade right there. If I zoom in and hold Command and drag this out just a tiny bit. Let's have a listen.
Taking time to figure myself.
Maybe that was too much.
Taking time to figure myself out. Shout from the mountaintop. Shout from the mountaintop. Shout.
All right, I like take 4 on that one. So I just went and hit record as soon as I was ready. And then, of course, we can do this over on Maschine as well. So I am going to fix this one up just a little bit. Press the 4D encoder down to extend your chunk. Change my position of the whole thing. So I'm going to go right about right there and then extend that out just a little bit. Okay, let's have a listen. Shift and hold the 4D encoder to move it back. Actually, let's go right back to this chunk right here.
Oh, when the sun will come up, so I shout from the mountaintop.
So you get the idea. You keep going through your song like this, listening to each chunk, choosing the best take, and sometimes you got to go really small with those chunks, and sometimes you're listening to a larger phrase. Just depends on the type of vocals and all that kind of stuff. And it does work well on Maschine. There are some things I wish we had on there, like maybe being able to choose crossfades between the different chunks. Yes, there's other tools that could do this process better for you, but to me it's just exciting that people who just have Maschine are now able to do this kind of stuff. And there's something really great about this tactile experience of Maschine, and I keep saying that. So the next thing we got to do is go in and figure out how to get this audio onto one final take. And I'll show you what we can do there. We're going to go to Sound 6. We're going to hit the sampling button. We can do that on the software if we wanted to. And what we're going to do is we're going to record the output of group B1 and put it onto Sound 6. So the input is going to be coming from internal, the input's coming from group B1, and what it's going to do is it's going to record the output of all of this onto our new sound slot down here. Now the problem with this is it's got compression on it, and if I want to change the compression later, I need to take the compression off of this group before I do this. The beautiful thing about the send effect with the reverb is, as a send effect, we're not going to get the reverb printed onto this track, so we don't have to worry about the send effect if you're using it as a send effect, which is another reason for you to go watch that send effect video and use send effects in your project. But what we do need to do is we need to disable this compressor just for this part of the process. So trust me, turn that one off, and then later on we're going to put it back on. You don't want to necessarily print this down onto a track. So the last thing I recommend doing is starting your recording from the very beginning. Your audio module audio is going to line up with the other takes. I'm going to press start and start right from the top. Here we go. So now we've got our output track right here. It is stereo, but I'm just going to click this little button right here because all we need to see is the mono version of this. It's exactly the same thing on the left and the right side. Right now it's a sampler, so I'm going to go over to the sound, the plugin and the sound menu. I'm going to click the 4D encoder, turn it into an audio module. I'm going to press the mute button, and I'm going to mute all the other takes so that all we're listening to is our new compiled vocal take. Next thing I can do is go into the sampler and start editing this audio. So let's have a listen to this. And I'm going to start from bar 3 here. Oh, and I need to turn the compressor back on. So I go over to my group and I turn on my VC2A, and then now let's press play and have a listen.
Slowing down, taking time to figure myself out, not knowing how.
So things you might do to edit the audio would be to get rid of any dead space at the beginning. So I can make a selection right here, and I could choose silence. And then what I would probably want to do, I could also do this on the controller. I go to page 2, make my selection, and I'm going to make my selection right before this chunk of audio begins. So I'm going to go to right about here, and I'm going to do a fade in right there. So I go fade in. So now that audio should have a perfect beginning. We could do the same thing on the next gap. You know, it just depends on how carried away you want to get with vocal editing, but we could go in here and we could do the same thing, get rid of any sounds if we wanted to. I could just go to silence, apply, and then do a tiny fade in right before in case there is a breath, and fade in, and then do the same thing over here. So a fade out right here. So at the end of that phrase, do a fade out, and then now we should have cleaned up any sounds in between. You really don't need to do this if there isn't a lot in there. What you should do is solo the vocal track and then listen to it. And that's when you're really going to hear some of those things that the compressor might bring up. And if you leave some of that stuff and don't think about it right now, what can also end up happening is in the mastering stage, you put on tons of compression and limiting, and any of those little mouth sounds or whatever that you didn't take care of during this part of the process are going to get brought up by the mastering, compression, and limiting. And this is just the beginning of the track. You'd want to do this on the whole thing. It's quite a lengthy process, but it is totally worth it. And at the end of the day, you're going to end up with this beautiful, perfect take of the best of your singer. And when you have a singer like Olivia, it makes this whole job a lot easier. So be prepared to listen to chunk after chunk after chunk over and over again until you really find the one that you like the best. So I will put a link to Olivia's YouTube page. Make sure you go check out what she's got on there. I'm sure it'll be changing over time, but I'm telling you, this girl can sing, and I'm really excited about the song. I'm excited to share the whole song with you guys, and I'll be doing that in upcoming videos where I talk more about the production of a whole song on Maschine. And I'll also be doing some Maschine Plus videos in the future. So that's coming soon as well. Thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful. We'll see you in the next video.